Most Shopify stores suck for SEO, but they don't have to. In this video, I'm going to show you how to SEO your Shopify store so you can increase your organic traffic, rankings, and most importantly, sales. My name's Tim, I run Exposure Ninja, and we work with loads of Shopify stores and other e-commerce businesses to help them generate more sales. In fact, we've taken e-commerce store clients from 5 to 8 figures in annual revenue through organic traffic. So we know a thing or two about how to optimize an e-commerce store. In this video, I'm going to be sharing some Shopify optimization strategies that you can apply to your store. And we're going to be looking at some high growth Shopify store examples so we can look at some of this optimization in practice. And stick around to the end for my SEO checklist plan that you can go and implement immediately. But first, we need to talk about Shopify and SEO. Now, SEO was historically one of the compromises that store owners made for Shopify's simplicity. So to make Shopify simple, they removed lots of functionality that you might get in something like WordPress and WooCommerce. But the trade-off with that was that SEOs didn't have as much control over their stores and weren't able to implement a lot of the optimizations that they really wanted to do. Now, whilst it's true that still today there are SEO limitations with Shopify, not least doing things like URLs, we don't have a huge amount of control over the URL structure other than the slug at the end. And Shopify has worked hard to add more SEO functionality and add more SEO control into its platform. I spoke a little while ago with Kevin Indig, Shopify's director of SEO, and was really impressed with the amount of energy that Shopify is putting into SEO. As a previous Shopify outsider and a member of the SEO community for a long time, Kevin was well aware of the limitations that Shopify had for SEO and was working with the team to get as many of them removed as possible. So whilst today, yes, there are still SEO limitations, overall, the simplicity of Shopify and its functionality makes up for that. And we're at a point where today we are building sites for clients on Shopify and Shopify Plus and not seeing any ranking reduction as a result of using the platform. So if you're on Shopify, be confident that you can have a really well optimized, high ranking, high traffic website. So long as you're following the steps in this video, of course. Before we can jump straight into the optimization though, we need to think about the 3 types of pages that we want to get ranked on our Shopify stores. The first is your home page. Now, your homepage is typically going to be the page that you want to get ranked for your brand name and some really broad product terms. Let's say, for example, that you're selling phone cases. Well, it might be your homepage that you're trying to get ranked for a phrase like phone cases. It's the broadest category search possible. The next type of page that you want to get ranked are your product category, or as Shopify calls them, collection pages. These are the pages that list products in a particular collection. Now, these product category pages for most e-commerce stores are the SEO goldmine, because these are the pages that you'd want to get ranked for commercial intent product category keywords. Let's say, for example, that we're selling phone cases. We might have phone cases that are wooden, we might have plastic phone cases, we might have metal phone cases, see-through phone cases. Now, anybody searching for wooden phone cases will be best served by our wooden phone cases category page or collections page. And if we think about the intent behind somebody who is just searching for the general term phone cases versus someone who's searching for wooden phone cases, we'll often find that the intent on the more specific search is more commercial, i.e. we're more likely to get a conversion for someone who's searching for a specific type of product because they know what they want. They're further down the buyer funnel. Now, unfortunately for most Shopify store owners, their collection pages are an SEO washout that contribute nothing to their stores. So we're going to look at some examples of high ranking stores and talk through the principles that you need to adopt on your collection pages to make sure that they're ranking. The third type of page that you want to get ranked are the information pages on your site. Now, often these will be blog pages, they might be content hub or knowledge-based pages. And many e-commerce store owners don't think about targeting informational search intent keywords on their website. But these can be really important and can be a great source of more traffic and sales. Let's say, for example, that your Shopify store sells tripods, and you notice that lots of people are searching for lightest travel tripod. Well, this isn't the sort of search term that is necessarily going to be well served by a collection or a product page. This is the sort of search term that is most likely going to serve up informational content results on Google. So for example, it'll be posts like the 5 lightest travel tripods compared. Now, if you're going to compete for this search and you're going to get ranking for that search, you need to recognize that it's going to take informational content to do it, because Google is viewing this as a research and information type search. So again, this isn't going to be the sort of search term that is going to be well served by a product or a collection page on your Shopify store. What you're going to need to do instead is write a blog post or a knowledge-based piece or a page on your content hub, which will be about comparing the lightest travel tripods, and of course, linking each one of those through to the product page on your website so that people can buy the products that you're referencing. The other type of high commercial intent informational search will be comparison searches. So let's say, for example, that people are searching Manfrotto versus Benbow tripods. Well, that's not something, again, that's going to be served by your product or category pages, but it is the sort of thing that you could write a blog post about, comparing the benefits of each, showing comparisons in a table, and linking people through to the tripods that are being mentioned. So those are the 3 types of pages that we want to get ranked: your home page, your product collection pages, and content pages, whether these are on your blog, a content hub, or a knowledge base. We're going to talk about how to optimize each one and the techniques that we need to use. So let's look at how to optimize each different type and what we need to do behind the scenes on Shopify to make sure that these pages are ranking. And the 2 areas we're going to look at across these different types of pages are content and behind the scenes optimization. Let's start with these category pages, or as Shopify calls them, collections pages. Remember, these are really important pages for your Shopify store's SEO, because these are the pages that you'll be targeting product category type keywords. Let's look at an example. Now, Gymshark is one of the best SEO'd Shopify sites, in my opinion. They use the Shopify Plus platform and they've really well optimized it. Let's have a look at a very broad search that Gymshark is ranking really well for. This is men's workout clothing. We can see that they're the top organic result. Now, when we click on this result, we see that it's their product category page that is ranking for this term. Now, you could argue this page could actually be even better optimized if they had a nice H1 above the fold that said something like men's workout clothing, but nevertheless, it is ranking. It's a fairly standard Shopify product category or collection page. Of course, it does link through to other collections as well as showing different products in this category. But one thing that you will notice about almost any high-ranking collection or product category page is at the bottom or somewhere on the page is text copy. Most Shopify collection pages are really poorly optimized for ranking out of the box because they have very little content on them. So what you'll notice is that most e-commerce stores that are targeting ranking have some form of text copy on these collection pages, and Gymshark is no exception. Remember that we Googled men's workout clothing. This was the term that we searched for, and we can see here the heading on this page is men's workout clothing. They've then got a bit of information about their men's workout clothing. I'm going to be honest, it's fairly generic. It's not the best category page copy in the world. They could link through to specific subcategories within men's workout clothing. Like, for example, we have an excellent range of men's workout shorts, tops, stringer vests, whatever. They could refer to these in this copy and link through using keyword focused anchor text, but that's okay because they're doing enough stuff right to get this page ranking. But that's the first thing, is this category page copy. Now, if we have a look at another example of a Shopify store that is well optimized, we see here Fashion Nova. Now, this is their dresses page, and we'll see again at the bottom of the page is text copy. Now, they've gone for having even more text copy. To be fair, that women's dresses is a much more competitive term than men's workout clothing, and they've gone pretty heavy with the text copy here. So they have linked to other subcategories using exact match hyperlinks, and they've got these subheadings as well, also using the dresses term that they're trying to rank for. And we will see that it's working pretty well for them. Here we can see their estimated monthly organic traffic from the US alone. We can see they're around about 5.5 million visits a month, and they are ranking well for lots of broad category type searches. Things like sexy dresses, ripped jeans men, plus size lingerie. This sort of non-branded search is really important for growing an e-commerce business on Shopify, because once you've exhausted your branded search and everyone who already knows you, the next opportunity is to start getting organic visibility for people who don't know you yet. And these sorts of category focused search terms are a great way of getting good quality commercial traffic onto your pages, but it's going to be those collection pages that are doing all the hard work and the ranking for all of these terms. And look at how many of their collection pages are ranking for these terms. So these are working hard for them. So how do you add this description? Well, when you're adding a collection page in the back end of Shopify, you'll see that you give your collection a title and you also give it a description. So this description is the stuff that appears on that collection page. Now, where it appears, how it appears, if it appears, is down to the theme that you're using. So make sure that you're using a theme which shows that description text as standard. If it doesn't, then you can talk to a Shopify developer like ourselves and we can get that added through the theme files. Now, you might be thinking, what do we actually add in this description copy in order to help our collection pages rank? Well, it's a good idea to use your target keyword and also related keywords. So just like Fashion Nova have with the dresses page, you're going to talk about the different types of dresses. You're going to link through to other dress-related categories and collections on Shopify and other related product types as well. Use normal language. You don't need to keyword stuff here, but of course, if your customers are talking about dresses, you're going to mention dresses, just like any good salesperson uses their customers' language when they're talking to them about the product. You're going to do exactly the same thing here. Make sure that there's enough detail to answer the questions that people might have about buying a dress from your store, if you sell dresses, of course. And also make sure you include any USPs or reasons for buying from you rather than competitors. If you offer fast delivery, for example, then be aware that people might be searching for dresses next day delivery. And if you've got those terms in the copy on your collections page, you've got a better chance of ranking for that search than if you don't. Now, one other thing before we move on from the collections pages, at the bottom of the collection page, you'll see this search engine listing preview, and you can click this button to edit website SEO. Nice, simple Shopify terminology. Now, this section sets what's called your page title and your meta description. Now, you don't see these on the page, although you do see them in the browser tab at the top of the window. But when somebody searches for a term on Google and your site shows up, this is what shows up for this particular collection page. So it's really important. If you have a great page title and meta description, when someone sees your site, they are more likely to click on it, which shows Google that that collection page is more relevant for their search, and that will help your ranking over time. Now, some quick tips on your page title and meta description. You'll see that Shopify gives you some character limits here. 0 to 70 characters for your page title and 0 to 320 characters for your meta description. Now, usually Google won't show all 320 characters. Often it's more like 160 characters. So make sure you include the important information at the start of your meta description. For your page title, what you typically want to do is include your main target keyword at the start of your page title and then have your brand name at the end. For your meta description, of course, you want to use your target keywords, but the keywords are actually less important for SEO in the meta description than they are in your page title. What you really want to do in this meta description area is convince someone to click on your site when they see it in search results. Think of this like an advert to get someone to click on you rather than any of your competitors. So you want to talk about the things that make you different. Often we'll talk about shipping terms, how much free shipping is available, how fast the shipping is, if there are any free gifts or discounts or voucher codes that people can use on your site. All of these things are great at increasing click-through rate and getting more traffic from search. Hey, hope you're enjoying this video. If you are, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also leave us a comment. What's your favorite Shopify tip for other Shopify owners that are watching? Did you know that we have an Exposure Ninja podcast? Yes, it's true. All you need to do is open your podcast app or Spotify or whatever you use for listening to your podcast and type in Exposure Ninja. You shall find it. Continue. Okay, the next page type that we're going to talk about is your product page. Now, whilst these product pages might not be targeting ranking on their own, it's a good idea to have your product pages optimized anyway because it helps Google understand what your site is about. Now, I'm going to give you some quick tips on product page optimization. That's me throwing the tips at you. Tip number 1 is to use your full product name. For example, if you are selling SD cards, and you want to sell a 128 gigabyte V90 SD card, make sure you use the word SD card in your product name. Just because you're shopping on timssdcards.com doesn't mean that you would necessarily know that every product there is an SD card. So use the full product name, then it's got more chance of showing up for SD card searches than if you just call it V90 128GB card. The next tip is to put energy into your product descriptions. Here we are on Fashion Nova. They do my head in with product descriptions because they are terrible. Now, in all fairness, Fashion Nova is releasing like 150 trillion products on their site every week. So there's probably not enough human capital in the entire history of mankind to be able to write custom product descriptions for every product. And then once they're out of stock, you might never get that product again. So I get why they don't. But if they wrote good product descriptions, it would really help. So for example, here's a bad product description available in black, mauve and white, mesh, off-shoulder dress, long sleeve, ruffle sleeve with lining. There's nothing really there. You don't get a feel for the product from the description at all. You might have unanswered questions that don't get picked up by the pictures or the descriptions, but you just have to take that leap of faith and make the purchase anyway. Though the key to writing a good product description is to write in enough detail to answer your audience's questions or objections about that product. So imagine your best salesperson in the store with your best potential customer. But your best potential customer is looking at the product through glass. They can't pick it up, they can't feel it, they can't experience it. So if you imagine a customer walking into a store, they could pick up your product, examine it, have a look at it, turn it around, see how it's made. Online, we don't have that ability, so we need to try and fill that gap both with the product videos and pictures, but also through this description. So some quick tips on writing awesome product descriptions. Imagine your best salesperson talking to your best customer. What are the questions or objections or blockages that that customer might have from purchasing, and how can you answer those in your product description? Write with enough detail to convince someone to purchase. Now, as for where you set this on your product pages, in the back end of your Shopify store, you'll see all products, you click on the product, and then here's where you write your description. Now, it's a good idea to make this as detailed as possible, and if it's really long, then don't forget to include subheadings to guide your visitors to the section of your product description that is most relevant and interesting to them. Now, at the bottom of your product listing, you'll also notice you got the same edit website SEO section that you had on your collection page. And the same rules apply here. You want to optimize your page title and meta description. You'll notice that by default, Shopify populates these automatically from your product name, but also from the description that you've added of your product. So by default, these might be a little bit too long, so you might want to tighten them up. You also might want to focus in your meta description on things like delivery and shipping terms, which aren't actually in your product description. So please optimize these separately. And unless you've got such a large volume of products that you can't possibly justify it, try to make the page titles and meta descriptions for your product unique and write them yourself rather than relying on Shopify's templated approach. Okay, let's talk about your blog. Most e-commerce store blogs are a complete waste of time. Yours isn't going to be. But firstly, let me talk about how to blog on Shopify. You've basically got three options. For an e-commerce store that wants to add content to their site, you can either use the default blog functionality that's built into Shopify, and this is fine and it will get you to a level. It'll allow you to write content that is optimized for the sort of questions that your audience is asking. Remember those tripod comparisons or best light tripods, those kind of informational searches that actually have a bit of commercial intent in them. So you can do that with the default Shopify blog functionality. When you want to take that to another level, you might consider adding a content section like a knowledge base or a content hub. You can use a plugin on Shopify to do this. There are loads of them available, so find the one that works for you. But what this allows you to do is format that content in a better way. It gives you a bit more control. It allows you to categorize your content better and have a nice kind of central content hub page that people can visit the different topics that you're writing about. The third option is to add a content section onto your site entirely separately. For example, on Gymshark, we have this central.gymshark.com, and they've basically built a sort of magazine onto the Gymshark site. This is the ultimate expression of this technique, and it means that you can build this in something non-Shopify. So the default Shopify functionality for adding content is fairly limited. If you build it as a separate subdomain on your site, then you can use something like WordPress and you can build out a full content section. So this is a little bit more advanced, but it's the kind of next level approach. So you've got those three ways you can do it. You can do it through the blog, you can add a knowledge base or content hub plugin, or you can have it as a separate subdomain. But whatever approach you choose, the most important thing to do if you want to drive organic traffic to your Shopify site is that you're writing about things that your customers actually care about. Now, the best way to think of this is, what else are my customers searching for? Using Gymshark again as an example, the people that are buying Gymshark clothing are gym goers. These are people that go to the gym. So what else do they search for? Well, they search for things like different types of workout or nutrition tips. So that's what Gymshark has posted on their content section over the years. Now, what's interesting is if we look at the best performing content on the Gymshark blog, we'll see that it is exactly this type of stuff. It's things like best arm workout, best trap exercises, arm workouts, arm day workouts, best ab workouts, working out arms, trapezius exercises. These are all informational articles about the different types of workout topic. But what's really interesting is if you go on the Gymshark content section today, you'll see that they've actually taken a diversion from this approach. They're writing posts like these, which, whilst being reasonably good, actually have no search focus at all. So for example, this post here, Recover Together. Well, what is that title based on? What is that possibly optimized for? What is it all about? We don't really know. We can see from the picture that it's probably something about workout recovery. But if they called this 5 tips for workout recovery or 5 tips to avoid muscle soreness after workouts, this is the sort of post that would get loads of traction organically. Here we can see a post called, Can you believe it's that time of year again? Is this going to rank for anything? No, it's never going to perform for them. If we look at the URL, they've actually called it the best workout leggings for fall. Now that is a good headline because that's the sort of thing that people will search for. But for whatever reason, in order to make it more shareable or in order to build more personality or whatever, I'm not really sure, they've given this the title, Can you believe it's that time of year again? Which means that this post is unlikely to perform for SEO. Best workout leggings for fall, great topic, and that's actually what this post is all about. There are links through to their products, which is a great way of doing this. But there you can see the 2 different approaches. We've got a user search focused approach, and we've got this kind of weird approach where we don't actually talk about anything that the customer's searching for. We just give it an almost arbitrary headline. You want to take the first approach. You want to write for these searches. Okay, let's move to talking about some behind the scenes optimization then. So we've looked at content and we've looked particularly at these key pages, your collections pages, your product pages, and your blog / knowledge base / content hub section of your site. Now let's go behind the scenes and look at some of the settings that you might want to optimize in order to make your site perform well. One area that we haven't spoken about is the page title and meta description for your homepage. This is absolutely crucial, and lots of Shopify store owners miss it because it's not where you might expect. If you go down to your online store and into preferences, you will see there you've got your title and meta description. These are the page title and meta description for your homepage. So same rules apply as with your collection and product pages. You want to optimize your page title to include your main target keywords at the start and your brand name at the end. And your meta description, you want to talk about the different keywords and the different topics, the different product categories that you're selling. Also with any USPs, any reasons for people to buy and click on your store rather than somebody else's. Next area that we're going to look at is image optimization. Now, image optimization is quite an important area because for a lot of e-commerce stores, having high resolution, good quality images on their product pages can really slow down those product page load times. And that means that not only do those product pages risk not contributing as much ranking, but also they can put people off if the page isn't loading quickly enough. Shopify takes care of some of this automatically by using a content delivery network or CDN to serve local versions of these images to people around the world. And that helps reduce the amount of time it takes to load an image. But you can also help further here. The first way that you can do this is by uploading compressed images to your Shopify store. Particularly if you're using really high resolution images, you can often compress the file size without losing resolution. This is often done in the image editing software that you're using or that your photographer is using, or that the files they are sending to you. The next way you want to optimize your images is you can actually edit the file name before uploading. So for example, here I've got a product called the Ninja Coffee Mug, which I want to get ranked. I really want this image to show up in Google image search for people who are searching for Ninja Coffee Mug because I figure that some of them might be wanting to buy. And one of the ways I can help increase the chances of this image showing in Google image search for Ninja Coffee Mug is by calling this file Ninja Coffee Mug.jpg.png, whatever file type it is. Another way that I can do this is by changing the image alt text. Now, image alt text is the text that is shown in accessibility software. So say someone is partially sighted when they visit your store, the image alt text is the text that their reader will use to tell them what is shown in an image. You can set your image alt text inside your Shopify backend, but it's not immediately obvious how to do it. Once you've uploaded the media to your product listing, you click on that picture, and over on the right-hand side, you'll see a section that says Add Alt Text. You can then add your image alt text here. So some good tips for adding your image alt text. You don't need to keyword stuff this. Just describe what is in the picture. So for example, I might say here, picture of a Ninja coffee mug. The next area of behind the scenes optimization is your sitemap. Now, luckily for Shopify store owners, their sitemaps are created automatically by Shopify. Here I am on the Colourpop Shopify site, and their sitemap is at colourpop.com/sitemap.xml. Now, when you've got your sitemap URL, you want to plug this into Google Search Console to submit your sitemap. That's going to help Google find all the pages on your site and navigate them easily. Once it's done, you can then pretty much set and forget, because Google will then crawl new pages as they are added to your sitemap. The next area of optimization behind the scenes is heading tags. Now, you may have heard of H1, H2, H3s. The basic rule for SEO is that you want one H1 heading tag on each page. Now, for most Shopify stores, this is done automatically. The title of your collection will be in an H1 tag, or your product name will be in an H1 tag, or the title on your homepage will be in an H1 tag. For example, here on the Raycon Global site, if we have a look for their H1 tag, we will see that their H1 is this main title here, Sound That Ignites Your Passion. Now, if they wanted to further optimize this for search, they could include their target keywords. So for example, wireless earbuds, but they haven't chosen to do that. Now, each of your pages should have one H1 and no more. If you're adding additional copy to your page, don't include further H1s, because usually your theme will have assigned your collection title or your product title an H1 tag already. But you can have additional H2s. So again, on the Raycon Global site, we will see that the rest of the headings, for example, what fellow audio lovers are saying, here we can see that this is an H2, as is our bestsellers. So all of the other subheadings on this page are given an H2 tag. You can have multiple H2s, but you shouldn't have multiple H1s. Now, one mistake that people sometimes make here is they fill in their product description, or they fill in some text on their collection page, and they're like, yeah, I kind of want to make it stand out a bit. So what they do is they go into their product description here and they just say, well, do you know what? I'm going to make everything stand out a bit more. I'm going to make it a bit bold. I'm going to set it as an H1. But in the words of Brian Tracy, this is not for you. Okay, this next behind the scenes optimization tip falls firmly in the boring but necessary category, and that is URL canonicalisation. Did you know that there are actually 4 different domains that your store can be showing up in? HTTPS with a www, HTTPS without www, HTTP with www, or HTTP without www. Who knew, right? Well, from an SEO perspective, you really just want to choose one and pick one. So to do this, you go to the back end of your Shopify store, you go down to domains, and then you click on enable redirection. This will then redirect all the other domain variations to your primary domain and mean that you don't have potentially duplicate versions of your Shopify store showing on different domains. Again, it's one of those things that once it's done, you can just forget it and get on with your life. Okay, this next behind the scenes optimization is slightly more technical, but stick with me. If you've made it this far, I'd be ashamed not to go all the way, right? So this is product schema. Now, schema is basically structured data that helps Google show information in search results in a kind of predetermined way. Sound confusing? Yeah, all right, let's look at an example. Let's say that you search for Colourpop Lucky Penny. Here's a Colourpop product, and you can see down here that we have this price and this in-stock thing. Where does that come from? Well, that is schema. Now, you can add different types of schema to your Shopify store, but product schema is a good one to add. The most straightforward way to do this is through the use of an app, and this is a very common app for adding schema. It's called SEO JSON/LD Schema by WebRec Studio. So add it, it's free of charge. and it does the job. It's quite a functional thing to do, so you're not looking for necessarily all the bells and whistles. Now, once you've added Schema to your site, you want to test it to make sure it's working as expected. Google has a free tool that you can use called the Rich Results Test. If you just Google Rich Results Test, you will find it. You throw in your product description like I've done here with the Lucky Penny product on the Colourpop website, and it will show you how well your schema is working. Now on this site, we can see that we've got a mixture of warnings and errors. So warnings are often things that are optional, which haven't been filled in, whereas errors are things that are missing but really important. So for example, we can see that on the Lucky Penny product here, we've got a missing field for description, missing field for aggregate rating, missing field for review, and missing field for brand. All of these are optional, so these are known as warnings. But we do also have an error, for example here, either offers, review, or aggregate rating should be specified. Because those attributes aren't set for this particular piece of schema, that's going to affect its visibility. So once you've got your schema implemented through the app, you then go to the Rich Results Test to make sure it's showing up properly. And by the way, if you're watching this video thinking, wow, there's a lot to do here and I want some additional help with my Shopify store, remember, we haven't even talked about backlinks yet. Then we have a free service which helps Shopify store owners, other e-commerce businesses, and in fact, anyone that has a website that they want to generate leads and sales through to do exactly that. We offer a service called a free website and marketing review where you submit your store to us. We will take a look at how it's laid out. We'll also take a look at how you're generating traffic to it. And we will put together a prioritized action plan that you can follow to generate more sales through your store. Now, we do this for Shopify store owners. We do it for people who own non-Shopify stores, and we do it for businesses that generate leads through their website as well. So whatever your website is about, you can request this free website and marketing review from the team here at Exposure Ninja. To do this, all you need to do is go to exposureninja.com and click the big button. We'll ask you a few questions about your business, your goals, and also your current digital marketing. And then within 2 to 3 working days, you'll receive a video from us showing how we would improve the sales through your store and what you need to do in priority order over the next 6 to 12 months to grow your revenue. This service is totally free of charge and it is awesome. So go to exposureninja.com, click the big button to request your free website and marketing review today. Okay, so let's summarize with your action plan then. Remember, we looked at 2 areas. We looked at content and then we looked at behind the scenes. So the checklist for your content, write descriptions for your category, or as Shopify calls them, collection pages. Make them good, make them detailed, and link through to other collections on your store. The second thing, write decent product descriptions. Make them detailed. Think of your best salesperson selling to your best customer. Answer all their possible objections and make sure they have all of the information needed to be able to make a purchase from you. The third thing is optimizing your page titles and meta descriptions on every single page of your site. We looked at how to do it on your collection pages and your product pages, and also your home page as well. The fourth thing is adding this blog, knowledge base, or content hub to your site. Remember, there's 3 ways to do this. You can either do this through the default blog functionality on Shopify. If you want to take this to another level, then you can add an app which allows you to add a content hub or knowledge base. If you want to take this to another level still, you can add a subdomain and build a separate content section using another platform like WordPress, which gives you all the flexibility that you need. But whatever option you choose, the most important thing is to add content on your site targeting these informational searches. The 5th item on your content checklist is to make sure that the posts that you're writing actually target the questions, the problems that your audience has. If you can make these product-focused information posts, for example, best lightweight tripod or Benbow versus Manfrotto tripods, then you have an option of getting high commercial intent traffic to your site, which you can then push through to your product pages through links in those information guides. We have other videos on the Exposure Ninja channel all about how to drive sales and leads through your content. So if you want to see me ripping into some boring bloggers, go and check those out. All right, and then we looked at the behind the scenes optimizations in your Shopify store. Firstly, we talked about image optimization. Remember, this is all about file size, your file name, and the alt text that you're using. Then we looked at submitting your sitemap through Google Search Console. Your sitemap on Shopify is generated automatically, so that's a big tick there. Then we looked at checking that both you and your theme are using H1s properly, namely that you have one single H1 on each page. Ideally, this would have your target keywords in. Further subheadings on your page, whether it's a collection page or a product page or an information page, should use H2 headings, and if you have subheadings underneath those, then you can use H3s, H4s, and so on. We also talked about the boring but necessary process of URL canonicalization, making sure that only one version of your store exists. And then finally, we looked at schema. You can have all different types of schema, whether it's product schema, review schema, FAQs, how-tos. Basically, install the add-on, have a play with it, and then use Google's rich results test. Just Google rich results test to find it, to check that your schema is being implemented properly. And then you've got a chance of getting rich snippets in the search results. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it's given you some insight into Shopify SEO. If you did like it, then don't forget to give us a like and subscribe. We really appreciate reading the comments as well, so feel free to tell us about your favorite tip and if you've got any other suggestions for Shopify store owners to optimize their builds. Until next time, see you soon.